Good evening, comrades. This is part two of man. First part was about man and God, a little bit with nature, but now we're going to go to man and nature, man and agriculture, or man and the animal kingdom. So, man is on this earth. He's moving around. This is where I left off on the part one. He's keeper of the vineyard, as you can say. He's overseer. All things are under his feet, under his authority. He's been placed a little higher even than the angels by his position over this earth. But he's lower in creation to the angels because he can't demonstrate the kind of power that an angel can demonstrate, or the angelic host can demonstrate. So he's man on earth, but he's higher in position. So he's been crowned with a crown of glory. We read that in the 8th chapter of Psalms, around the 4th through the 9th verses, or 4th through the 8th verses. So man is dealing with nature now. He's tilling. He's looking after the ground. He's looking after the garden. The garden had irrigation system that came up from the mist from the ground. There was no rain, and I'm just putting this imagination out here. And he's named all the creatures. He's named all the animals. He's named all the species. He's bringing order. And he's showing responsibility that God had given him. He's carrying out his daily duties. And he's keeping God's word or his commandment. May have been some other commandments out there, but for the most part, he's in a good state with God. He's in a good situation. He's got it. He's sitting back in the cut, man. He's got it made. He's got everything that he could think of. Okay, so he's the man. He's the powerhouse. He's it. Okay, so you don't come to do anything in there without going through Adam, without going through that first man. Okay, so we said he has a crown of glory, a little lower than the angels, dominion over the works, all things under his feet. Now he's dealing with trees. He's looking at how trees are giving homes to the fowl of the air. He's looking at how trees are like life. He's understanding nature. He's looking at nature, and anybody that studies nature can know a lot about the Creator, about God, by just how nature is, how man interacts with nature. He's looking at what is natural. He's looking at the natural flow of things. And so now, let's see if I have this part here that's called, okay. So in nature, we understand that the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Okay? We understand that the lesser light was called dark and the greater light was called day. We understand that one day passes to the next. So man now is involved with time. God has no time. God has no beginning and no end. So God is not subject to time, but man, according to man being created, time begins, a timeline begins, because he doesn't have forever to live. At least he did then, but then after what happened, he's not able. He's finite now, but then he was infinite. He could have lived forever. You know, there was a tree of life out there that he was eating of, and that basically he can live forever, as long as he didn't touch that forbidden fruit. So, what else can I say about the creation? About nature. Nature has a certain amount of peace, a certain amount of order, And when man comes, man has to fall in line with that order. Even though things were under his dominion and under his authority, he still is guided on to nature, because nature moves in spite of man. Animal kingdom operates in spite of man, but man can have some say-so in regulating the animal kingdom and make territory certain areas where animals do not come and certain areas where you do not go because of the animals. But you got critics out there that say that there's no way you're going to coexist with some wild beasts and wild animals because they're going to tear you behind in pieces. Well, that's a great thought. That's a great reality. But we see now that we living with all kind of beasts out here before we even had guns and things to protect us. Those animals kind of know where they should go and where they shouldn't go. Because if you have just a spear, you have some brothers here in Africa take down some big animals with some spears, and they go machetes. So these animals are not dumb. They know their territory too. But if you get off in their territory, they might tear you a new behind. But for the most part, man and animals kind of have a thing understood, like an understanding. Even though they don't speak the language we speak, the animals know. And I rest assured that amongst the animal kingdom, they're probably saying one of the most dangerous species is that two-legged walking man. Because you think a lion is mean, look at what that man can do. So that's why I want to talk about man, is because man has what is called an imagination. And whatever he can think in his imagination, in his heart, he can act on it. And he can either do good with it or he can do wicked with it. But we're still in the beginning stages where man is just moving around and learning nature and learning how things work and how things operate. And then eventually, he gets to the point where he is learning about labor, about work. And so if he's keeper of the vineyard and he's doing all this, he's basically got a job. And his job is to subdue and rule and regulate. And that's what he's doing in there. So in this time period, this begins to move into what is called labor. And that would be my part 3, but I'm going to start moving into that because we can get into it a little early now, because I don't have a whole lot of other things to say about that nature except what I just said. And so when it comes to labor, he's working, but not to the degree that he will be having to work after he disobeyed whatever God said. So right now, he's keeper of the vineyard. He's got light work. You know, he's calling the shots, and there doesn't seem to be any violence and any things going on in between him and the animal kingdom and him and the nature. So he's moving right along. So we could say that man has began to learn about labor in a sense. And it's just part of keeping a garden, keeping a farm. A farmer knows it's hard work, keeping a garden, keeping things orderly, attending to nature as you need to. Excuse me. And so this is the beginning of man thinking, doing, and imagining what else he could do to improve on situations. So he's learning what he could do to improve. He's learning what he could do to make things even harmonious for himself. And so when we talk about labor, we're going to just talk. We're going to kind of fast forward here and talk about what man does right now as labor. Man will find himself building things. He will find himself constructing things. He He will find himself inventing things. He will find himself making things in order for the human being to function better. Whenever he builds something, he wants to make it better, faster, stronger. No matter what it is, transportation, agricultural, he wants to make it better, more efficient. And this is what he's guided toward doing, is trying to make things harmonious for himself and for his other fellow men. But fellow men is not on the scene just yet, but he is learning labor. And I want to say something about labor, that all labor, as Dr. King said, has dignity. So when a man works, even in this day and time, or whether he works back then, his pride and his self-esteem a lot of time is tied into his work and what he does. Some men are involved in it to such a degree that their identity is tied into their work. I try to stay out of that. I try to keep my identity away from what I do as a living, because that doesn't make me who I am. It just is it's a part of me, but it doesn't make me. That's not where I get my identity from. I try to keep my identity with my culture, my race, and my God, but not what I do as far as work. That's just a part of my title or extended duties that I do. But when I come home, I would rather be a husband, a man, a father. I would rather be identified in that capacity and whatever I try to do toward God and toward my fellow man. The good things that I try to do, not the bad, but the good. So when it comes to labor, all labor has dignity. So I don't care if you are a tiller of a garden. I don't care if you just plant flowers. It doesn't matter if you're a garbage collector or a transporter or a person that sweeps streets or a person that does housemaid type work. All labor has dignity. Every service, from the time of the garbage collection all the way up to the executive jobs and Fortune 500 positions, all labor has dignity. All services are needed for mankind to aid mankind in his daily walk, in his daily responsibilities. Trash removal, without trash removal, we have a terrible community, or a very hardship ran community. So labor has dignity. So what I want my brothers to understand is, no matter what you see your brother doing, whether he's a janitor, he's sweeping, or he's carrying garbage, or he's a hospital doctor, or he's a dentist, all labor has dignity. You treat your brother with respect, especially your black African brothers who may be just hustling, pushing carts, collecting bottles, collecting cans. The man is trying to earn a living, and that being an honest living. So when it comes to labor, Adam was in a very beautiful position to earn an honest living, just doing what God told him to do. Earning an honest living. No darkness, no wickedness, and none of that. None of that's on the scene. But now that we're working now, we work in intense environments that we have to earn our bread by the sweat of our brow. We have to go out and labor. So the thing I want to push here is, no labor is without dignity. All labor has dignity. And we need to be able to look at our fellow man in a very egalitarian way and not condescend because of what they do. Okay, long as it's an honest living, you need to give that man his props. You got some guys out here that making millions and thousands of dollars doing wicked things, and they get more credibility, it seems like, from society than the men that are doing the very struggling type of positions and jobs and making little money. So it's a condition of the heart, how you look and how you approach these things. So I'm going to close here in this part 2 about labor and about creation and get to the next one in part 3. Peace, love, God bless.